Hello everyone and welcome to episode 6 of the Nigerian Nerd. Pictured in front of you right now is a young man hitting the heavy bag in the gym. That young boxer happens to be me. I've been boxing for the better part of this year and I'm in love with it. This episode of the Nigerian Nerd is going to bring you into an anime that improved my life, that changed my life as a boxer. A little anime called Hajime no Ippo. Hajime no Ippo is one of the most unique animes I've ever seen in my life, because it takes everything that it does in the show from real life events. There's characters that are based on Thomas Hearns and the flicker jab with the Hitman style. There's Mike Tyson and the peekaboo style. There's Jack Dempsey and the Dempsey roll and so many other things. For this episode, I'm doing something a little different. I'm getting someone in on the show, one of my best friends. His name is Alan. I call him the Mad Man. His last name is KWANASHIE. As you can see, he's a colorful character. And I hope this conversation gives you guys a bit more insight into why this show is so amazing and why I think every single human being, anime lover or not, should watch it. As usual, if you haven't already subscribed, subscribe to the show, like, share with your friends, and we hit 100 subscribers last week, so this is an unofficial face reveal for the face behind the channel. I love all of you, enjoy it, and let me know what you think in the comment section. Yo, Alan the Madman.
Yo.
What's happening, dog?
Usual, you know how it is.
Good to see you, man.
Good to see you too,
Welcome to the Nigerian Nerd.
Thank you for having me.
Well, today we're talking about Hajime no Ippo.
Yep.
And
everyone's favorite boxing
anime.
anime.
Everyone's favorite boxing anime. And I just want you to take the first 20 seconds and just let the people know a thing or two about you.
20 seconds is a long time, but I'll do my best to fill it up. Right, well, my name is Alan KWANASHIE. I've been practicing karate on and off since I was about 7 years old, and I've been more serious with it since I was about 12. And I'm an old man now, so I'm not going to tell you how old I am, but I've been practicing for a long time. let's just put it that way. I've also been a on and off boxer. Well, I took it seriously for a while, but not so much these days. But yeah, I've been boxing since 2012. If you're ever in the Plymouth area, in I believe Harrow or somewhere around there, if I'm not mistaken, you will find Intense Boxing Gym. If you go there, tell Danny I sent you. So yeah, that's about it really.
He's also a gamer, he's also anime and manga lover, and he also happens to be one of my best friends.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that I'm on the show, I think it goes without saying.
Yeah, first of many more to come, hopefully.
Yeah.
Okay, so why don't we just hop right into it then? The first thing I wanted us to talk about, Hajime no Ippo, is, I think the greatest thing about the anime is the story. As in, the story makes sense, die. So, I just want you to... What about the story of Hajime no Ippo stood out to you?
To me, I think what stood out to me the most about the anime, well, the manga, Hajime no Ippo as a whole, what stood out to me was the character Ippo himself, where his desire and his passion for boxing comes from him wanting to be a better version of himself, him wanting to be the best version of himself, and how he sees boxing as a way to achieve that. Where, you know, how he constantly goes on about how he wants to be a new man and how he can achieve that through boxing. We see that in when he's trying to motivate himself to catch the leaves, when he's trying to prove to Takamura that he can actually be a boxer. And, you know, like when Takamura says to him, like, this isn't a game, this is real life. Like,
you're trying to make friends here.
Yeah, you're trying to make friends here. Like, this isn't what you think it is. And Ippo's like, no, like, I'm taking this seriously. Like, I want to be a new man. And if this is what it takes for me to be a new man, then I'm going to dedicate myself to it. And that's what really stands out to me about the show.
Okay. What about Ippo as a character? Specifically with the fact that most shonen animes are pretty predictable in character development. You see it in Bleach, you see it in Naruto. But would you say that Hajime no Ippo falls prey to some of those common shonen tropes that we get used to? There's a weak kid, he gets strong, he starts beating people, he becomes the man. Does Ippo fall within that category by your own understanding? Is that did you get that vibe off it?
No,
Okay.
no, and I'll tell you why. Most other animes, shonen exactly, to be more precise, are power fantasies. We see this seemingly regular guy, or in some cases even lower than regular. Like we see these guys that start off, what's the word I'm looking for here? Rather
Timid.
Rather, well, like there's nothing special about them. And then we find out that, oh, they've got some latent power or something that they later unlock, and then seemingly overnight they're the most powerful person in the show. They're OP, and it's always this unattainable power fantasy of things that we can't even, like, even in our wildest imaginations, like we can't see happening in real life. And that doesn't happen with Ippo, because with Ippo we see him put in the work. We see him do his road work. We see him learn the techniques. We see him practice. We see him fail.
Yeah.
We see him...
And when he fails pretty miserably.
Quite miserably. And then we see his bounce back, what the things that he does to then get on track. So I don't think Ippo falls into that category, because I think we all see a little bit of ourselves in Ippo. We see like, oh, okay, so if I go to the gym and I do X, Y, and Z, I can see these results too. It's not like I'll never be a Hollow, no matter how hard I train. I'll never be a Shinigami. I'll never be a Shinobi that can do a Rasengan. But I can be a pretty decent boxer if I put in the work, and that is what I like about Hajime no Ippo.
Well said, bro. Well said. I couldn't have said that any better.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah. So, with regards to all of this, would you say that the story is predictable? Were there ever gotcha moments where you were like, I saw that coming, or oh, I know he's going to win. Oh, he has a broken hand. I'm sure he's going to come up with some technique. Do you ever feel like the story got predictable enough for you to be like, I could see that coming? Were there moments like that? And if there were moments like that, were they prominent enough for you to detract you from being engaged into the story?
I can't really. There are no real moments that jump out at me from the show or the manga that I can say I thought were predictable. I'll tell you what, though, there were moments where I was convinced that I knew what was going to happen.
And were you right?
And I was completely wrong.
Oh, interesting.
I'll give you an example. When Miyata fights Mashiba.
Oh, yeah.
Because there was that moment where you're like, Miyata is going to overcome, he's going to overcome, this obstacle that he's faced in the fight, and he's going to win. And we see that moment, and we're like, oh, they've done it again. He's going to pull out that win from somewhere, and then he gets knocked out.
Yeah. And you see that I'm glad you brought that up, because Miyata's arc was so heartbreaking.
It was,
because he was the Sasuke of the show. He was the chosen one.
Yeah.
And you see him fall from grace so dramatically. And they pull you through every emotional struggle and his self-doubt, and mirroring that with his father as well.
Yeah.
Beautiful stuff. Beautiful stuff.
Right.
All right then. So we still have quite a bit to cover. Okay, so next section, that would be the action. We're talking with regards to how good the animation was, how engaging the fight sequences are, because the show has a pretty well established format. Slow build up. Okay, there's a challenge. Okay, we start training. You start seeing a lot of training montages. There's maybe some emotional obstacle you have to overcome, and then the fight comes. And usually there's a build up of like 3 to 4 episodes where he's going off with his coach and his partners, and he's trying to learn. So it's a slow burn.
But it never gets tedious.
It never does. It's because it's realistic as well. I think younger audiences might struggle to relate with that, because it's not as urgent. Like some anime, some cartoons, some movies, the action needs to be delivered early so that you stay invested in the story. But
and the fights get dragged out.
Exactly. But the fights come after maybe 3 or 4 episodes. And when they come, in your opinion, do they deliver?
Of course they do.
Okay, so what about the action in Hajime no Ippo? As a boxer now, someone who has practiced boxing, what about it stands out to you?
I like how, though the techniques are exaggerated for that anime effect, for that wow factor of it, that they're still grounded in reality. You can see how, like for someone who's practiced boxing, you're like, that's that technique. I know that. I remember someone doing this, like practice or training, and sometimes you even see yourself like, I remember doing that particular move or that particular technique. And even though it's exaggerated for that sort of like that anime effect that you get from when someone uses a technique, it's still grounded in reality. Like you can, it's like, yeah, I know that technique. I know that I like, okay, if I like Sendo's smash punch, for example. Like it's exaggerated on how like he kind of brings it from, but it's a real life boxing technique, and it looks good because it has that flash that they do in anime, but it's still great to see because that's something that you can relate to. Like, that's real. I know that.
Yeah, it's grounded in reality despite the exaggeration, right?
Yeah, and so the fights are really great to watch because they're grounded in reality, but they still have that extra flash that you get from watching an anime.
I'll tell you what, though. You know the person who gave me that wow moment. When I became a student of boxing, I started watching old fights, studying the greats. The wow moment for me when I was watching Hajime no Ippo was the moment they showed Mashiba doing the flicker jab.
Oh yeah.
And then they called it the Hitman style. I was just at the hand. Once the hand goes down, then you start hearing that rush, that rusty noise.
That swing.
Then that his soundtrack, that eerie music comes up. Then he just starts whipping the hand. When I saw that gave me, like, I had goosebumps every time I see. And I think they knew because every time they show Mashiba in the show, that soundtrack comes up and you start to hear that noise. Yeah. Beautiful stuff.
I get that same feeling, but with the Dempsey roll.
Oh yeah. The Dempsey roll is all sorts of awesome,
bro. Like I can't even begin. We can be here all day. Talking about that effect from the Dempsey
It'll
roll.
be on the screen when this video goes up. Yeah. All right. So did you have a favorite fight?
The favorite fight? Well, I mean, asking me to pick a favorite fight from Hajime no Ippo, it though possible, is difficult. It's like asking which Michael Jackson album is the best. But I'll tell you what, the one fight that I will say really stuck with me was Ippo's fight with Date. That fight really stuck with me. Not for the fight itself, but because of the aftermath of it. When you see what that fight does to Ippo, and I think that's the one thing that really stuck with me.
The beautiful thing about that fight as well, apart from what you just brought up, was that it shows you what it requires to be a champion. Being able to adapt to adversity, being able to stare, and that was the difference between him and Ippo in that fight. It was that this was the first time Ippo encountered a champion. Yeah, and it was important for them to highlight that because martial arts breaks you. Even the basic techniques, just the rigor and repetition, and it breaks you. I keep saying it, fighters are wired differently. And that fight did a very good job of letting you know that these people aren't normal. Like, they're not like the rest of us. They do stuff. Anyway, without getting too carried away, beautiful stuff.
Funny enough, also adding to what you just brought up, the fight after that, after Ippo's fight with Date, was Vogue and Sendo.
Yeah, he fought Vogue, then he fought Sendo.
Well, when Vogue and Sendo fought each other, that was the next fight after that, and we saw where it clicked in Ippo's head when he saw them both fight, and he saw the fact that neither of them was willing to lose that fight, and Ippo was like, "This is what I've been missing. This is why I lost to Sendo, to Date." And that was a great moment for me because you see that moment when it clicks to Ippo.
And they do that little thing where Ippo starts, you see his eyes, he's getting excited because he's a really calm, humble kid, but he's getting excited. Like,
you can see that.
Yeah, I can't wait to fight.
That translates in his next fight, in his comeback fight, when he fights the unnamed guy from the Philippines.
He did have a name, but
well, you know what I mean. Like, he wasn't an important character, only in as much as showing how Ippo got his confidence back.
That was the first time he ever told Kamogawa to watch he was going to
He
knock
was going
someone
to knock
out.
someone out in the next round.
It was beautiful stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so now final section for me, which for me is the most important thing.
Yeah.
The emotional weight of the show. I'm not ashamed to admit it. I cried more times than I can count. Yeah, I cried at least 6 times in the first 75 episodes of the show. The show broke me a number of times.
Yeah.
How did you? Were there any particular moments that had emotional weight that like weighed you down?
Dude, we could literally be here
And-
like till sun up talking about like emotional moments.
Yeah.
But I think for me, the one moment that really got me in my feelings, man, oh man, like talk about liver punch, man, like that the moment where Ippo comes to the gym for the first time as a potential new athlete.
Yeah.
And when he has to fight Miyata as sort of like his induction into the group, and how he makes an absolute fool of himself in that fight, where we see his inexperience in boxing come out, and then we see him adapt in that fight, and then we see him. I believe he lost that fight, if I'm not wrong.
The first time they met, he lost.
Yeah, I believe he lost that fight.
But they booked a rematch immediately afterwards.
And I remember when he lost that fight, and in his head he's like, oh no, is this it? Is this the end of my dream? And he comes up to him and he's like, you start training tomorrow. And that moment where everyone's coming up to him and is like, we can't believe like you were able to last this long against Miyata. Like, he's a prodigy, he's this, he's that. And when Ippo breaks into tears and he looks at everyone and he says, thank you for accepting me. Like, the tears are coming out now.
My eyes actually just watered.
Thinking about it now is like, he's just like, thank you for accepting me. Finally, I'm accepted somewhere. Like I have friends.
Prior to that time, he was being bullied. He was a reject, had no friends. They used to insult him that he smelled like worms. He only used to be around his mom.
Yeah. And that moment where he says to them, like, thank you all for accepting me. And the reason why that hit me so hard was because growing up myself, I found it very hard to make friends. Not because there was anything wrong with me. I was just an awkward kid.
Yeah.
And I remember the first group of real friends I made were when I started practicing karate. One of my oldest friends, Raymond, you know Raymond?
Yeah.
I've known Raymond for so long, and Raymond was one of the first friends that I made from karate. And there was that sense of brotherhood there, where even when people would pick on you and stuff like that, like in the dojo, there was that brotherly camaraderie that came with it, where you knew it was from a good place. Everyone wanted you to improve, and when you did improve, there was this like elation across the entire dojo, like yes, like he stepped up, and that's an intoxicating feeling, man. It's just that feeling of belonging, and to then see that portrayed in an anime was oh man. Like, I'm literally going to cry.
Yeah.
Like,
and it was done masterfully as well.
It really was.
It's something that stands out. Something that stands out when you watch Hajime no Ippo is that you're made immediately aware that the show was created by a boxer for boxers. It's not. This is not a third party telling. This is somebody telling his story.
This is someone who knows what the life really is like. It's not a matter of going to do his research. He knows what it's like because he's in that life. You can see that translate
into the story. I know you did a bit of reading into the creator. Do you want to speak about him a little bit?
Georgie Morikawa, aka George Morikawa. Yeah, no, what can I say, man? Like, other than like the chances of you watching this episode, I don't know what they are, but if by any chance you ever do come across this episode, thank you. That's all I can say. Like, you when you hear stories of how he's a real life boxing coach and a real life corner man in boxing, and how he owns his own gym that's modeled after the gym,
Kamogawa boxing gym.
Yeah, like it. You hear stuff like that, it blows your mind. Like, someone has this much passion for both boxing and anime, and you see the marriage of both. Like, oh man, like but like, arigato
gozaimasu.
You're watching this. Thank you
Yeah.
so much. Thank you so much.
There's so much that we can't cover in this episode because we're trying to fit it into 10 minutes. It's definitely over 10 minutes now, but the stuff about the supporting characters, there's Takamura,
Yeah.
there's Kamogawa,
Yeah.
there's Aoki,
Yeah.
so many beautiful things about the show. There's stuff like the fact that that the hall that they fight in is actually a real place. The main hall they use in the show. And we can't possibly touch on everything, but I just hope that anyone that watches this episode just pick up the first 5 episodes. Each episode is 20 minutes.
You'll be doing yourself a big favor
Yeah.
if you go watch Hajime no Ippo. Like, I can't recommend it enough. You need to watch the anime.
Yeah.
Whether you're into boxing or not, like, just, I beg you, just give the first couple of episodes a try. If it's not for you, it's not for you. But just give it a go.
All right, then. So, with those closing words, Alan, you have anything else to say to the people, or can we call it a wrap?
Box,
Box.
pick up a martial art, do whatever. It will do wonders for your self-confidence. Like, I assure you that much. Like, just pick up anything. It doesn't even have to be a trendy martial art or sport. Just pick up something, whatever it is, and just do it. Just dedicate yourself to it. I promise you'll come out a better person at the end of it.
All right, spoken like a true G. Thank you very much. This has been episode 6 and the end of the first season. God bless you. Thank you for the support. We hit 100 subscribers last week, and that's why my face is being shown in this video. But anyway, that's a topic. That's a topic for another day.
So was that the review?
Yeah, that was the review.
They actually haven't seen your face.
Nobody's seen my face. Nobody was ever supposed to see my face. But yeah, here we are. Guys, thank you. It's been a blast.
I love
We're gonna do great things. More equipment coming in. Everything. It's going to get big. Thank you very much. Have a blessed week. Peace.
Peace.